Hi, this is Jeff Wimmer from StudioCycles and StudioCycles.com. It's August the 2nd, 2011, and in this YouTube video I want to talk to you about bottom brackets, what they are and what the big deal is, what the differences are. Now here I have three bottom brackets. This is basically the evolution of the bottom bracket. This bottom bracket here is the bottom bracket that they use in the very first Schwinn Johnny G spinners, the Star Trac V-bike. This is a cartridge bottom bracket. This was a standard in the bicycle industry. If you look at the end, it's tapered and square. The crank arms fit on the end of that. You tighten a bolt and the crank arm presses onto the end of that spindle. That's called a cartridge, a square taper cartridge bottom bracket. And again, you're going to find those on the original Schwinn Johnny G Spinner Pros, Elites. You're going to find them on some Star Trac V-bikes. You're going to find them on the first generation Star Trac Johnny G Spinner Pros, which were black. And then Star Trac went to a proprietary bottom bracket, and this is their bottom bracket that's currently in use. This is again, this is the Star Trac bottom bracket, and what's proprietary about this is that Star Trac has the spindle, that black piece runs all the way through this, and they OEM, or they source the bearing cartridges, they source this metal spacer, they source the lock nut, and that's Star Trac's bottom bracket. It's probably much less to source than the cartridge bottom bracket. And they make the spindle on the Star Trac bottom bracket a little bit bigger, but it is still tapered and it is still square. Now you're going to find that bottom bracket on second generation Spinner Pros, Elites, first generation, second generation, third generation Spinner, Star Trac Spinner NXTs. What happens with these two bottom brackets is that clubs and many consumers, they don't keep the crank bolts tight. The crank arm will get loose on the end of the spindle, and it'll literally snap the end of the spindle right off. When that happens, your bike is in failure mode unless you want to do one-legged rides. Now Schwinn has, about 6 or 7 years ago, they switched to current bicycle industry technology, which is called ISIS technology. And on the ISIS bottom bracket, the end of the spindle is round and splined. And also the hole, if you look at the hole, the diameter of the hole on this, as opposed to these, it's much, much smaller. So on the Schwinn bottom bracket, it's not made by Schwinn, it's actually made by Truvative. But it's called ISIS blind technology, and it's pretty much now the bicycle industry standard. This cartridge, if you compare the size of this cartridge to the other three, particularly this one, the ISIS it's like a tractor part. And the great thing about ISIS bottom brackets is that I don't care if you're 500 pounds with 1,000 torque foot-pound downstroke while you're riding the bike. You're just the masher of all time. You cannot snap a spindle on an ISIS bottom bracket. It is bomb-proof. They also tend to last much longer, and they also cost more to source on the bike. But if you're a big guy, 220 to 300 pounds, and most of these bikes have a 300-pound weight limit, you probably want to get a bike that has, when you go from the cartridge to the Star Trac bottom bracket, you have leaps and bounds in integrity and structural integrity, and in terms of the bottom bracket's ability to fracture under heightened torque foot-pound application. Although with the ISIS bottom bracket, and again, this thing is a monster. The crank bolts rarely, if ever, come loose, and you can't snap the spindle. Now the bikes that have ISIS technology, the Schwinn Evolutions, the beginning Evolutions, the Schwinn IC Evolutions with red handlebars have an ISIS bottom bracket, but it was first generation ISIS, and the bottom bracket was actually this size cartridge but with the ISIS spindle. Current technology is a giant tractor part looking bottom bracket. Later Schwinn IC Evolutions, IC Pros, IC Elites have them. All of the new Schwinn AC bikes have them. Current generation IC Pros have them. And the new free motion bikes use ISIS technology. It's a much more expensive part to spec on the bike, but again, it's frickin' bomb proof. Now, again, it's August 2nd, 2011, and it's definitely worth noting that Star Trac on their new generation bikes, which are coming out, they have new technology in their bottom bracket. Although their bottom bracket looks the same, their new bottom bracket's going to have what's called Morris taper technology, and their spindles will be much, much bigger, and they won't be square. It'll be a round, taper, almost conical spindle end, which you know, the Star Trac bottom brackets are pretty bomb-proof compared to this technology. But the new Morris taper technology that they're employing on their blade, their Spinner NXT, their Spinner Pro for 2012 will have this Morris taper technology, which eliminates square taper, which provokes cranks from get loose and actually fracture. And I think then Star Trac will be right up there in line with ISIS technology. Although in 8 years and thousands of these bottom brackets, I've never seen an ISIS bottom bracket spindle fracture. So there's the dope on indoor group cycle bottom brackets. It's also notable that Le Monde uses, I believe they're using square taper technology on their bikes. The Kaisers, as far as I know, use square taper technology in their bottom brackets. It's a round spindle. But they're proprietary bottom brackets, and the Kaiser has a giant spindle. In all fairness, I don't think I've ever seen a Kaiser crank arm snap off with Kaiser's bottom bracket. They build a very solid bike for a consumer. A bike like a Kaiser M3 will last forever. And the Le Monds, they're solid as well. Kaiser, Le Mans, Star Trac, Schwinn, and now we carry the free motion bikes, which if you're not familiar with free motion, I would suggest you look into them. They are badass, kick-ass, evolved machines. Pat Werner, the guy who designed the Schwinn Johnny G Spinner Pro some 15 plus years ago, he also designed the AC bikes, which there's an AC Sport right there, the Schwinn AC. He is the brains behind the new free motion bikes. And again, this has ISIS technology. The bottom bracket right there on the S11.6, which is their entry-level commercial bike. It's got single top load resistance technology. It's got perimeter weighting. We have these, and we'll have their other bikes in stock and online on the website in short order. But if you have any questions about any of this, or you're not sure which bike to buy, feel free to call me directly. I would guarantee that I'm probably the only owner of a company that you can call directly 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week and talk to me about what your best options are. Even if you find a bike and you think it's the smoking deal of all time, call me, talk to me first. If it's a smoking deal, I'll tell you to buy it. But most companies don't pre-tune their bikes before they ship them the way we do. We pre-tune, pro-build everything brand new, then we overpackage it. And for consumers, we offer a lifetime warranty, lifetime parts replacement, lifetime email and phone tech support. So hard to find other companies that stack up to that. 99.9% of the companies online, they process your credit card and they send you one of those over there, a bike in a box. So by the way, these are Schwinn AC Performances you see here. We've got 80 of these that we're building for the Idea Fitness Convention. Here's more of them here. But do your homework before you spend your hard-earned money. That way you'll buy one bike and it'll last the rest of your life. My telephone number is 888-909-BIKE, 818-470-2204, or 310-664-1375. I'm Jeff Wimmer from StudioCycles, and I want to thank you for taking the time to listen.